Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Woodman, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk more about the efforts bad actors use to exclude demographic groups they considered inferior and undesirable. This is all done to exclude immigrants bad actors did not want in the United States and continue to spread negative narratives about them. So far, we have been talking a lot about Asian immigrants, but the negative narratives expanded to more types of immigrants. Various politicians and eugenics said, quote, "This country used to attract members only of superior races, but now all sorts of human vermin come here to breed and pollute the population of the United States. Between 1820 and 1840, when we needed people, 70% of our immigrants came from Germany and the British Isles. That number became 9 out of 10 in the next 20 years. They were good Nordic stock and made America stronger, but no longer. Now we get worthless people, and many of them are the worthless of the worthless. Idiots, madmen, thieves, prostitutes, disease-infested political agitators, revolutionaries. So we've been trying to do something about it. We want to keep the country strong and not allow the lower orders to drag us down. For a better America for all. We're patriots," unquote. Unfortunately, these patriots like these, had been making it more and more difficult for anyone they deemed undesirable to immigrate to the United States since the first Immigration Act. In 1820, the Steerage Act prevented ship captains from cramming as many immigrants into a ship as could fit, and also required captains to list passengers with demographic information upon docking in the United States. The immigrants kept coming by the millions. In 1882, the same year as the Chinese Exclusion Act, a new Immigration Act changed a 50-cent admittance fee to each immigrant and also forbade the entry of, quote, any convict, lunatic, idiot, or any person unable to take care of him or himself without becoming a public charge, unquote. In 1885, entry was denied to contract laborers, manual workers, often imported by the hundreds, who had signed contracts in their home country to work for very low wages. The law was toughened in 1887, and a deportation clause was added in 1888. In 1891, polygamists were forbidden, as well as those, quote, suffering from a loathsome or a dangerous contagious disease, or who have been convicted of a misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, unquote. But still, they kept coming, more and more from Southern and Eastern Europe. The United States tried other measures to tighten immigration, but nothing seemed to work. In 1907, President Roosevelt signed a bill that further restricted Asians and Muslims. They raised the immigration tax to $4 a person, which was a lot of money back then. They made it hard for certain kinds of women to enter the country, including arranged marriages. That was the same law that kept the Japanese from coming here from Hawaii, part of the Gentleman's Agreement. So Japanese wives weren't affected. The administration said, quote, "We have nothing against any of the Japanese as people, you understand? We just think they should stay in their countries and leave our country to us. We're trying to close the faucet before we're overrun," unquote. Another thing the administration did in 1907 was set up a panel to study immigration so they could use science to keep what they considered wrong people out and keep the country strong with white people. The Dillingham Commission came up with exactly the recommendations the white supremacists wanted. Some corporations loved using inexpensive immigrant labor, especially when the immigrants could not read or write. So Dillingham recommended a literacy test. They said, quote, "Cheap labor is fine unless it takes jobs away from white people and encourages them to join unions," unquote. They also recommended staying with Chinese exclusion and strictly limiting the number of Japanese and Korean immigrants. They said, quote, "The country should have a quota system so we could pick only the best fruit of the tree. By 1917, we were ready," unquote. Another thing they said was, quote, "The literacy test was very effective, although we were more than fair. An immigrant could be literate in any language. It didn't have to be English, and we even accepted Yiddish. Although, for the life of me, I can't figure out why we were so generous. And we had to override Wilson's veto. That's how popular this law was. Wilson didn't like the literacy test. He said literacy wasn't a measure of who would make a good citizen. And this is from a former university president, unquote. The commission needed support from the West Coast, but it was something they all wanted anyway. The law cut a vast swath of territory called the Asiatic Bar Zone, from which no immigrant would be allowed in the United States. The zone included all of India, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, Arabia, and a good bit of Russia and Central Asia. China was not included because immigration had already been declared illegal in 1882. And the barred zone did not include Japan, but what could they do? The Japanese were allied with the United States in World War I since their navy helped the British, and no one was prepared to slap them in the face. So they hid behind the fiction that a law wasn't needed because the gentleman's agreement was already doing the job. Speaking of World War I, when that ended, however, the white supremacists got back to work. By 1921, in both the East and the West, white landowners had access to a labor force that could be overworked, underpaid, abused, or even killed without any fear of retribution from local authorities. There were differences, however. African Americans in the South were American citizens, but were prevented through terror and legal trickery from exercising even the most basic rights of citizenship. Most were doomed to work the land for our white masters, with little differences from when they were slaves. The Japanese in the West were not citizens, but a few managed to exploit loopholes in the law to either buy land themselves or do so through contrivances, such as leases or dummy corporations. In 1913, Ulysses Webb, who used to be the Attorney General of California, co-sponsored a bill that prohibited, quote, aliens ineligible for citizenship, unquote, from owning land, leasing land long-term, or being part of corporations that own land. He said, quote, "We wanted to protect our farmland. If we hadn't, the Japanese would have taken over. They work all the time and find ways to get more out of the land. In other words, they are better farmers. They don't play by the rules. They're not Americans and never will be. They proved it by finding sneaky ways to get around the rules. They put this land in the name of minor children who were citizens, but we stopped that in 1920. We passed a new law prohibiting parents from being appointed guardians of minors who own land. We got to watch them every second," unquote. When we take all of these things together, these laws, policies, actions, and public statements reiterate a clear pattern we continue to see. U.S. immigration policy was mainly based on enforcing racial and social hierarchies rooted in white supremacy and eugenic thinking. From early passenger lists and exclusion fees to literacy tests, barred zones, quota systems, and land ownership restrictions, policymakers repeatedly used the language of science, patriotism, and national strength to justify excluding groups they labeled as inferior or dangerous. These measures targeted immigrants from Asia, Southern and Eastern Europe, and other non-Nordic regions, while simultaneously exploiting their labor when it was economically convenient for the United States. By looking at these efforts across the 19th and early 20th centuries, we keep seeing how discrimination was built directly into immigration law, shaping who was allowed to enter, who could belong, and who could thrive in the United States. In the next video, we will talk more about how someone was labeled as white, either because the science says someone is white or because someone looks white, which is important for determining if someone should have citizenship or not. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the change maker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.